People, we are Tottenham TV, back here for yet another Tottenham update. Let's get straight into it, talking about Tottenham's summer transfer business via Fabrizio Romano. He says Tottenham's mission is to get business done as early as possible this summer for the majority of the names they have in mind and positions they want to cover. I think we can see around 3 or 4 signings through the window at Tottenham, and they are actively exploring the market for a creative winger this summer as well. I mean, nothing new, to be fair, but I guess it's positive that they are looking to get the business done as early as possible. I think we heard the same at the beginning of last window, didn't we? And we did get business done early. We just didn't get enough business done.
I think it's fair to say to be last couple summers we've done the business early. If you remember the summer under Conte, I think Spence was our last signing in like mid-July, and then we didn't have any more signings from then on, but we had our business done fairly early. Last summer we did get business done early, but obviously if you remember, Van de Ven was only done a few days before the season. Harry Kane was obviously sold on the eve of the season. Do we sign anyone when the season was open? I can't remember.
No.
Johnson was late.
Brennan
He was
last
a deadline.
day of the window, yeah.
He was deadline. So there was a few late deals, but hopefully we get prepared this summer, because last summer was always going to be chaotic. Ange's first summer, he's got to make decisions about players. He's got to see them firsthand. Now he's had his time. He's had a season to take a good look at the squad, who he wants, what we need. And so it's going to, hopefully, that should lead to a more targeted summer where we can, from now, Ange can say to the recruitment staff, look, we need this and this. And I'm sure that's already underway in what they're looking at. And then hopefully, as soon as the season ends, we can start executing those, or probably after the Euros, I'd assume.
Yeah, do you think that it will be like kind of after the Euros, after the Copa America, or they're going to look to get in signings beforehand?
Depends who we want, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. But in terms of like incomings and outgoings, there are also outgoings to consider as well. Do you think it's going to be the case of how it usually is, maybe get a few in and then it's going to be in and out?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, we have, in a weird way, we do have a bit of a bloated squad, but it's a squad because everyone says we have a lack of depth, but we actually have a lot of players. We just have a lot of players who we need to sell and we need to get rid of, and that Ange needs to upgrade on and needs to be better fit in the system. So I do think we're going to move early for players, and hopefully then after that probably move people out. But as you say, in terms of the international tournaments, it's highly going to depend on who we're after, if they're playing these tournaments or not. And that's going to, because if these players are playing, they're not going to be focused on transfers. So that's usually how it goes.
I mean, usually it does make a difference. I can remember maybe once that we've signed a player during the window. I mean, I remember Didier Zokora, was lifting up a Spurs shirt whilst he was at the World Cup with Ivory Coast. But apart from that, has there been anyone that we've ever signed at a tournament?
Off the top of my head, no. For some reason, I've got a memory recently of a player who was on international duty, and we announced it while he was there, and he was like lifting up the shirt while on international duty.
Well,
but I don't know.
Zokora. That did happen with Zokora.
It happened recently. I can't remember which player, but I don't think it was like a tournament. I think it was just he was away with the international team, and that's when he announced it. I think maybe we signed him on deadline day, and then he was kind of had an interview with. While he was on international duty, that was how he kind of announced it. I'm trying to remember who it was. I can't remember off the top of my head. There definitely was one in the past like couple years or so.
I don't remember what you're talking about. But anyway, let's move on and talk about specifics. We're going to talk about Bryan Gil first. As Fabrizio Romano says, there is a lot of interest in Bryan Gil from around Europe. He could leave Tottenham if the offer is right and arrives for a permanent transfer. The player didn't want to go on loan in January. He only wants to go on a move that's a good opportunity and a permanent transfer. And I think that's fair to say. I think it's only right to sell him on a permanent deal this summer, unless it's like a loan with an obligation to buy or something like that, which I consider as a permanent transfer anyway. I think, Tottenham and Bryan Gil's story is probably going to come to an end this summer.
Yeah, I think so. The fact that he stayed in January, and has he played a minute since January? I don't think so. Even when we had all these injuries, he still hasn't played at all, I don't think. Maybe he came on one of the games, I can't remember. But for him, it must be very, very frustrating that he's kind of decided that, look, I've got a lot of friends here and I like the way Ange is playing, so I want to stay and try and fight for my place, and it just hasn't worked out at all. Following on from the fact that Conte never gave him a look in, he's just never had a regular spot at this club. His development has really stagnated. His best spells while he's been at the club has been at other clubs, at Sevilla. So I think it is best that he moves on, and I think it's best for everyone. And I feel for him, because I do think there's a player in there. I just don't think maybe it's right player, wrong time kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know if he's ever going to make it in the Premier League. I think every time he plays. I like maybe his tenacity, his technical ability, but it's not enough in this league. You need to have the physical presence as well, and he just doesn't have that. And I think going to Italy, probably most likely Spain, or even like somewhere like the Netherlands, I think he could do really well in those kind of leagues. But I just think maybe he needs to bulk up a bit more and have a bit more experience before he comes back to England. In terms of the minutes he's had since the January transfer window shut, he's had 5 minutes away at Everton, and that's it.
There you go. And that was a really bad spell. Well, we were under the cosh, yeah. So he hasn't had an opportunity to show what you can do, really. Not properly, anyway.
Next up, we're going to talk about Ederson once again. Fabrizio Romano says that people at Tottenham appreciate Atalanta midfielder Ederson, but it looks very difficult for him to be signed this summer, with Atalanta expected to sell Coop Miners and believe that they won't sell both of their midfielders in one window. So that's a bit of a kick in the teeth, because I thought we could really target Ederson this summer. I guess if you give them an offer they can't refuse, they'll have to think about it, but Spurs aren't in that market of giving offers that clubs can't refuse. In terms of Coop Miners, though, that's an interesting one. He's a midfielder that can play pretty much everywhere. 6, 8, 10, centre-back he's played, on the wing he's played. Very versatile player. I'd love to see him through the door at Spurs.
He's got a hammer of a left foot, I know that. I remember seeing a goal from last season where he scored from the halfway line. Unbelievable. Maybe it was this season or back end of last season. But anyway, really good player. Dutch international as well. He's really coming into his own at the moment. He's becoming an important player for club and country. I really like the like of Coop Miners. I think he could be a real asset to us. It's just whether Ange feels like he fits in on what we want. In terms of Ederson, obviously, if they do sell Coop Miners, I don't think that means Ederson's not for sale, but it probably doubles the price. And from that point, from Spurs' point of view, that probably rules us out.
Yeah, and there was a similar situation, wasn't there, in the summer? Was it with Tapsoba? They were about to sell their other centre-back, and who was it? I can't remember it off the top of my head who it was. Someone in the summer that we were going for.
Leverkusen.
And there was someone in the summer that we were going for, and then they sold another player, and then the price just
what happened? I remember once it happened when we were in for Martinez, and then they sold Lukaku.
That was the one. I think that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, and then Lukaku obviously gets snapped up. We didn't get the Martinez deal done in time, and all of a sudden Martinez's price probably tripled at that point. And that's that.
Yeah. So that's Ederson and Coop Miners. Next up is Raphinha. Fabrizio Romano says that Tottenham do have concrete interest in Brazilian winger Raphinha. I mean, we've spoken about him so many times over the past couple of weeks, but I guess the interest there confirmed by Fabrizio Romano. Yeah,
I do wonder if we were to go for him and sign him for good money, like whether we're signing him based on his name rather than someone who is a direct fit. I think he's a really good player. I think in another system he'd be a bit more effective than in our system, but I still think he can do an effective role in our system. But I just see him as more of a winger who likes to attack and score and shoot rather than a creative winger, and I think that's what we're looking for more. And I think creatively, I'm not saying he's bad, but I don't think that's his biggest strength, and I think that's the kind of winger I'm looking at.
Say that, but 7 assists this season, 7 assists last season, and this year it's been like an injury-ravaged season, so he hasn't had the minutes where he kind of would have hoped. So 7 assists isn't nothing to be sniffed at.
As I say, I don't think he's not creative. I just don't think creativity is his biggest strength, and I think we should be signing a winger where it is.
Yeah, I get your point. Omar Mamoush, next up. Bild are reporting that Eintracht Frankfurt are almost expecting a bid from Tottenham for forward Omar Mamoush this summer. A minimum fee of 50 million euros to allow him to depart this summer. He's got 15 goals, 6 assists in 33 games in all competitions this season.
Yeah, and having a really good season, playing up front for Frankfurt. He's kind of really coming into his own this season. He hasn't really been exploding on the European stage before this year. He's got really good pace. He's quite similar to like a Gudmundsson, to be honest. This is his style of play. So maybe that's the kind of forward we're looking at, a versatile, quick forward who's good at dribbling and is really starting to add those goal contributions to his game this season. So maybe we're looking at those kind of undervalued strikers who we feel like we can get more out of in our system.
Yeah, you say undervalued, but like 50 million minimum is quite a price for someone who's only just having their breakout season now. When you're looking at Gudmundsson as well, when there's talking about like 20 to 25 million or something like that. I mean, surely there's more value in Gudmundsson there.
They're similar ages as well. I think Mamoush is 25, Gudmundsson's 26, so similar ages. I think 50 million euros is what, like 40 million pounds, something like that.
45, yeah.
45. that's the market these days. Unfortunately, if you want a forward player who's going to be effective, it's very difficult to find one who's proven himself for under that kind of money. And when I say proven himself, I wouldn't say he's proven, but he's had a good season. Like, yes, you can maybe sign a player who's not kind of had a good season yet, but you can see in the data that he's got a lot of potential. Maybe you can get him for undervalue, but players like that, it's difficult. So yeah, 50 million is maybe a bit expensive for the fact that he's only had like one good season in the Bundesliga this season. But I would say that if you're looking for a player who's like proven in Serie A, La Liga or Premier League, you're paying a lot more than that probably.
Well, hasn't Gudmundsson proved that he's proven in Serie A this season?
Yeah, you got Gudmundsson as well. Who'll
be half
undervalued.
the price.
That's the report now. If he carries on this form, that's probably going to go up.
Yeah. All right, let's finish off talking about the Johan Lange overhaul of recruitment. Sami Mokbel says that Lange is known to be an advocate of the data-driven approach with regards to identifying future targets, and Spurs are understood to be modernising their recruitment approach, which will see changes made to the recruitment staff. Ian Broomfield is amongst the members of the recruitment staff who are leaving Tottenham as the club overhaul their recruitment staff to continue moving forwards towards a data-driven talent spotting model. And Charlie Eccleshare as well says that Tottenham are letting go of Ian Broomfield, Augusto Benito and Colin Jackson, three of the club's longest serving scouts, as part of the ongoing restructuring of the footballing staff, which is music to my ears. I mean, Ian Broomfield has been around ever since I can remember. I just remember playing Football Manager for all these years, and he's always on the scouting staff, isn't he?
He always gives the worst suggestions.
Yeah, he does always give the worst suggestions, to be fair. But I think this has been needed for a long time at Tottenham, and it's great that it's happening now. Oh, yeah. It should have happened years ago, to be fair.
Well, yeah, with Johan Lange coming in and stamping his own authority on the on the way he wants to go about his business, he's obviously going to want to bring in his own people. These guys, as you say, they're long-serving scouts, so they may be not ahead of the game at the moment when it comes to the latest players. You know, when you get older and it happens naturally, where you're not going to be as up to date with a lot of things that the new era of scouting, and as Johan Lange apparently likes, as that report says, you know, data-driven approach, or like really looking at what the skill sets we're looking at and how the players were looking at performing these skill sets is very, very important. So obviously he has only been here now since November, so it's obviously going to take time for him to come into the club, assess the situation, see what kind of people he wants to bring to the club, and I think that's only going to benefit us in the future. And it just makes everyone more in tandem and in harmony when it comes to everyone working together and everyone kind of going about who we want to sign and being on the same page on that front.
Yeah, and it's always felt like whatever changes Spurs have made, there's always been like lingerers from previous regimes, and not everyone was part of the same team essentially, and like it's still been a bit of a mix and match approach. So I'm really happy that Johan Lange has been given the reins to bring in his own people and have everyone singing off the same hymn sheet. I think it's only going to be good for us, and I think the club are definitely moving in the right direction in that phase. So that is your Tottenham update today. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts regarding all the news stories we've brought to you today. Like, subscribe and comment, and as always, come on, you